One-on-one with Mark Allen, and today we have Shannon Nelson. Shannon Bolden Nelson, as we're going to look back on the history, your history a little bit, and you'll hear that name Bolden a few times. Shannon, tell us a little bit about, first off, where you're born and raised.
I was born and raised in Marshall, Minnesota, so southwestern Minnesota. I think about 5 hours straight south of here. You just get on 59 and you go a long ways. That's where my parents still live to this day, and I grew up there, went to high school there, have two sisters, one of whom I played basketball with. So, Marshall's still my hometown.
All right, let's talk about you growing up high school and on to college, and the love of basketball obviously has always been there.
Yeah, we have a lot of coaches in our family, and my uncle, I think that's kind of where it started. My uncle coached at Southwest Minnesota State in Marshall. And so when he would have camps, my sister and I got to go even when we were a little bit younger than the camp age started, and it just got us in the gym. We would go and watch his teams play. We would get coached by some of his players, and that was just really fun to be in that atmosphere. And I think that's kind of where the love started, just always being in the gym and watching those games and being a part of some of those teams at Southwest Minnesota State, and it just kind of grew from there.
When you were going to high school and getting into your older years and getting close to graduation and whatnot, did you have your eye on basketball after high school?
I did. I think I did for a while, I would say maybe from junior high on. And, I started, I was on varsity in 8th grade, and I think I started either 8th or 9th grade, something like that. So, and we had some successful teams. We had a coach that came over from Tracy Milroy Ballatin. He had kind of this tiny little town near Marshall, and he had kind of really established a powerhouse in basketball. And he came over to Marshall, which is a little bit of a bigger school, and he just carried on that tradition. And we had some young teams, and as we got older, we just had a little bit more and more success.
Now, of course, you went to Minnesota, and as a Gopher, you guys had a lot of success. Your teams went to the talk about going to the NCAA tournament and making it to the Sweet 16 and all the excitement behind that.
It's almost hard to describe. My freshman year, we made it to the Sweet 16. We went over to Palo Alto, California, and played against Stanford on Stanford's home court and beat them, and that was a fun experience. My sophomore year was when we made it to a Final Four, and that year we were a 7 seed in our region, and we ended up beating the number 2, the number 3, and then the number 1 seed, who was Duke at the time, just to make it to the Final Four, and that's just a surreal experience. And my junior year again made it to the Sweet 16, and we made it to the tournament again my senior year. And I think I carried a lot of what those experiences were, and a lot of what I learned into, the rest of my life, into a lot of things that I do, but especially into coaching.
Okay, and of course you came up after college. You did some other things before you came here to Thief River Falls at Northland, right?
Yeah, I did coach 1 year at De La Salle High School in the cities and worked down there for a couple years. My husband's from this area, which is kind of what moved me up here. And I got a job at Northland actually on the East Grand Forks campus until the previous coach resigned, and they asked me to fill in, and I was actually hesitant. I said, maybe I'll be an assistant coach, I'll help out a little bit, but I wasn't sure that I didn't have it in my head that coaching was what my path was or what I wanted to do, but I kind of stepped in and thought in my mind it was maybe just going to be a 1-year thing, and 10 years later, here I am, so I just fell in love with it.
You've brought some very good teams. You've won conference championships every year, either champion or co-champion, right?
Yeah, so this year is our 10th straight Northern Division Championship, and it's my 10th season here. The last 3 years have been co-champions, but we've won every single year, and we've had a lot of successful teams with area kids.
I think that's what's so much fun for the fans around here is they see girls they know from whether it's Thief River Falls or Warren or Red Lake Falls, BGMR, Stephen Argyle, Goodrich, Gregla, they're all around here, and you take girls that they're athletes and they're good, but when you bring them here, everything steps up a notch, don't they?
Yeah, it's a weird formula. You're taking these small town Minnesota kids, and they're usually the top players or one of the top players on their teams. And it's almost like putting a puzzle together, but we get as many good kids from the area as we can. And then we look at who we have and we build a system around that group of kids. And we do a lot of player development. We do a lot of individual work so that they can develop their own skills early in the season before we kind of put everything together. And I don't know, it's a formula that has worked for us. And so it's something that we plan to continue to do. But it's so fun to demonstrate to fans and people in that area that there's good basketball here and there's good basketball players, and you can be successful with a team made up of mostly Northwest Minnesota kids.
If you got good leadership, and this is good leadership, what do you model your coaching after? Is there coaches that you have that you looked at and said, yeah, this is maybe I take a little bit from this coach, a little bit from this coach, or do you have to incorporate a lot of your own stuff?
I steal a lot. No, I take a lot from coaches that I've had previously and coaches that I watch and admire. My high school coach, like I said, was really talented, and he just knew the game of basketball so well. And then in college, I had several coaches who, I almost take bits and pieces from each of them to kind of try to build our own system and build my own coaching philosophy. But I watch a lot of basketball still. Us as coaches do, and I think every year we feel like we learn a little bit more from what we watch, what we read. With the internet now, you can just find out so many things about other coaches' philosophies and kind of incorporate that into what you do. But I think what's important to us as coaches is we understand we don't know everything, and we want to constantly be learning. So we're always studying and trying to figure out new things and new ways to do things. And I think when you stop trying to continue to learn, or when you feel like you already know everything, you're doing a disservice to your players, because every team is so different and each player needs a little bit of a different kind of coaching style to get the most out of them. And so I think that's a big thing that we do, is we constantly are watching basketball and studying coaches and trying to continue to learn.
Back in college, you were a defensive specialist. You were known great defense. Okay, when you came here, we could see that in your teams. So tell me, stronger defense or stronger offense? Which one is more important?
They say defense wins championships, right? I'm a numbers person too, and so we've studied our teams in the past and looked at numbers. And what we've found on the teams that have been most successful is their defensive numbers are right around, they're giving up 50 points a game. The teams that give up 55, 60, 65 points a game are the teams that maybe don't make it as far. Now, you can argue both ways, and I've come around to offense and the importance of it a little bit more. But I still believe the foundation of what we do is defense. When we start the season, when we're going through workouts, the first thing we introduce is our defensive philosophy, because it takes a while for the players to learn, and we want to make sure we put a lot of value on that, because I always say defense travels, and when you're on the road, there are always going to be games where your shots don't fall, and you have to be able to fall back on and rely on your defense no matter what. And so that's kind of the core of what we do. But obviously you need offense, and that's what's fun for fans to watch, and that's what's fun for players to do. So you kind of have to have a good mixture, but our foundation is always defense.
It's fun to watch you guys every year come up with something. And some years we look at it and we go, I wonder if they're going to have a team. But you guys do it every year in and year out. And I think your teams have gotten more respect too, going to the national tournament. Mm-hmm. I think 10 years ago, Northland, I don't think got any respect, and I think that has changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's very true. Even the year we won the national championship, out of 8 teams, when we had only had 1 loss that season, yet out of 8 teams, we received the 7th seed in the national tournament. And we were a little bit disappointed with that, with only 1 loss in the season. And I think that kind of inspired the players a little bit. And then when we went in there and we beat the 2 seed and the 3 seed and the number 1, I think they were the 2-time national champions, to win that championship, I think it almost woke people up a little bit to what we're capable of doing. And now we do get a lot more respect, not just in the state or in the Northern Division, but nationally too. And I think that's a testament to our players and them kind of embracing that underdog role a little bit. And they kind of have this mindset. No one thinks you can play basketball up here. And when we go on a national level, they're like, where's Thief River Falls, Minnesota? Right. But it's so fun to see us then compete with those teams and kind of show people what we're capable of.
It's great to have you here. I know the community has embraced you, and it's wonderful to have you here. And we hope that you're going to be here for a number of more years.
That's what I plan on doing.
Coach, thanks for visiting with us.
Thanks, Mark.
This is Mark Allen's one-on-one, and today's guest, Shannon Nelson, coach for the Northland Women's Basketball Program.